All roller coasters were not created equal. Some are built and instantly are a hit with the public, changing the game and pushing technology forward to unprecedented new heights. And some roller coasters, well, some set out to change the world and end up doing more harm than good. From maintenance issues to untested technology, some coasters never make it long enough to stand the test of time and change the game. But then there's that last group, the ones that get left behind as technology renders them obsolete. It's an ever-changing dynamic, the roller coaster model is, and we've seen countless titans bite the dust. So in today's adventure, we're taking a look at those bygone beasts and ranking our top 10 favorite defunct roller coasters we've ridden. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button, and welcome to the Adventure Outpost. Hypersonic XLC was one of the first launching coasters I ever rode after Rock and Roller Coaster and Accelerator. It was the summer of 2006, and my dad took me and my friends to King's Dominion and Busch Gardens, where we got our taste of this speed machine. We waited in sweltering heat, and while I hated the ride at the time, I'm happy I waited, seeing as how rare this credit is today. Standing 165 feet tall and launching you to 80 miles per hour in 1.8 seconds, this ride has a wicked kick with a flat aftertaste, as after the first drop it's just a few turns back to the station. Standard definition of a one-trick pony. Hercules was the first big boy wooden coaster I ever rode, and it scared the living shit out of me at the time. I can still recall the horror looking down from the top of the lift at the drop ahead and that insane turn at the bottom of the hill. I held on to my dad for dear life and vowed never again afterwards. Not that I ever had to worry, the ride closed a few years later. The roughness of this coaster was no joke, leaving many calling it Hurt Your Knees instead of Hercules. And I've never heard a more appropriate name for this coaster. Firehawk was the first Flying Dutchman model I had the chance to ride, and I can see why they only made 3 of them. This ride is terrifying and violent, with the slowest moving line possible, giving you plenty of time to lament your stupidity for riding. The restraints are uncomfortable, the ride jerky as all hell, and this was known as the best of the 3. I've gotten Nighthawk, and all that's left is one terrible go-around on Batwing, and I can kiss this coaster model adieu. Batman and Robin the Chiller was the creme de la creme at my home park till Nitro arrived. Not that the Chiller was very reliable, but you know showing up that if you heard its roar, it was going to be a good day. Robin was the side I rode the most, with Batman often down, and I almost never got my chance at Batman. But the gods were in my favor, and I managed one ride on the Capes Crusader shortly before he would operate no further. Incredibly intense and forceful as shit, it's a shame they were never able to get this one down right, as this was one coaster I wish still remained at the park. Great American Scream Machine sat at the other end of my home park and is a mirrored clone of Viper at Magic Mountain and Shockwave at Great America. But both Great America and Great Adventures versions both bit the dust. This Arrow Mega Looper was one of the first big crazy looping coasters I rode, the first with 7 loops for sure, and it was rough and it beat the shit out of you and left you quivering with a headache, but once a trip you always gave it its due. And now an even bigger pile of shit resides in its stead. Gwazi was a ride I got to experience out of sheer luck. Flying in a day early to Tampa before a cruise, and too young to do anything without parental supervision, it was completely up to the gods if I'd make it to Busch Gardens or not. And thank God for my parents' friend Bruce, who loved coasters as much as I did and suggested Busch Gardens for the day's excursion. Because that was my one and only visit to Busch Gardens Tampa, so if not for him, I wouldn't have this dueling credit. And what a credit it was. Fast, thrilling, and rough as hell, this coaster more than lived up to its mythological namesake, and I cannot wait till its evolution is complete and we can experience him again as Iron Gwazi. Son of Beast may just be the craziest roller coaster I've ever been on, especially after seeing just how dangerous this ride was throughout its lifespan. My yearly visits to Kings Island to visit family and hit coasters was taken to another level when Son of Beast opened. I had been doing every roller coaster I could by that point, and I was still nervous taking on this behemoth. It was insanely tall, with crazy, brutal helixes, and that gonzo loop. This ride was batshit crazy from start to finish, and I loved it as a kid, and was gutted when they took out the loop, and even more so when they dismantled the whole thing. It wasn't until I got older that I realized how shitty this ride actually was, and am happy that a much better ride now sits in its place. But still, Son of Beast was one of a kind. The Big Bad Wolf was my favorite suspended coaster, and it's a shame that of all the ones in operation, that's the one that bit the bullet. It had awesome theming, quick turns, and that epic drop over the lake. That thing was insane in the back row. Remember that 2006 summer trip? That's also where we hit the Big Bad Wolf for the first and only time. But thankfully I scored a few rides on it, so I'll always have the memories. Even though Verbolten was a solid replacement. Volcano the Blast Coaster completes our trifecta of defunct rides we hit on that summer 2006 trip, and it was the most metal of them all. Those launches were epic. That blast out of the tunnel with the fire spewing was insanity, one of a kind, and those Heartline rolls. There wasn't a second wasted on this ride. The theming was too good for a ride outside of Florida, and I am so disappointed the 2 rides I got that summer will have to last me a lifetime. I got to see it standing but not operating in 2018, so at least I got to take one last look at that gargantuan beast. Dueling Dragons is a ride gone too soon, and the only coaster on this list that should still be here today. Just look at that fucking entrance sign. It was demolished simply to make way for something new, though Dragon's most thrilling element, the duel, had long since died a horrid death at the hands of stupid people. As much as I enjoy Hagrid's, I long for the return of Dueling Dragons. There simply wasn't another ride like it. Sure, there's the out and back Dueling Woodies, but they couldn't hold a candle to this. 2 inverted coasters that twisted and turned in and around each other, creating near miss after near miss, with its near miss loop being the best of them all. Seriously, front row in this ride was out of this world. The theming was also insane. The queue through the cavern with dozens upon dozens of skulls was perfectly executed to build that dread of what you were about to ride. And it's so hard to decide which side was best, as both had their pros. But the ice side may just squeak it out for me, as it had the better of the near-miss elements and that dope Cobra roll. This is one ride that will surely be missed. And that's our show. There have been so many different coasters we've come across that no longer operate, from ones that outstayed their welcome, to technical travesties, to only the good die young. And even if some left much to be desired, I'm so glad I got to take a ride on them for the experience and the bragging rights. So go get out there and ride before you miss out on something one of a kind. Guys, thanks for watching. Hit that subscribe button if you enjoyed this video. Comment down below. I want to hear some of the defunct rides you've gotten to ride and what your rarest credit is. Let's hear those bragging rights. And from all of us here at the Outpost, take care, be safe, and adventure on.